Hi there. I was just making an observation of self with the activity we did today for the healing. I wasn't sure what the agenda was or how it was going to take place. And my husband hands me a piece of paper with a bunch of names or initials on it. And he says, this is the people we're going to do the healing readings on. And all of a sudden, it was like a bunch of stuff rushed into the room, a bunch of diagnoses and body parts and toys, and the whole room was covered with stuff. And I'm like, oh my. And I just kind of put it out of my mind, and I started the class. And then I found myself going around trying to find what fits with what person. You know, this ankle issue, it goes with who, and I'm going up and down the list, trying to, and I think it showed me I tend to have no filters or low amount of filters. And I just take in all kinds of data, and I don't necessarily know who it's from because there was no organized question to ask the LCS. Because I was just getting data in general. Right. And it was good for me to see how that could be a challenge or something that I want to maybe shift and change if my goal is to get data about a specific person on that list and not everybody on that list all at once with that no compartmentalized picture. And so when I did the activity, I got a few right, but then I got data on the wrong person. So the data I got was for the wrong person. And the thing that puzzles me is, like, I would take a person like Hattie, and I got a very clear story in my head of Hattie, and it was not correct because I saw a woman in her 80s that was African American that had diabetes, and so I had a storyline that seemed very convincing to my brain, and it was way off, unless it was another lifetime or something, or a different Hattie, but it was incorrect information. So where to start?
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of things there. And the last thing you said is very important, unless it was a different Hattie. You have to be careful when you have an intention to go look at Hattie's physical systems, her health body. Because if you just have a query of, I want to see Hattie's health body and see what's wrong, you will get a random draw across all the Hatties on the globe, maybe even in the universe, I don't know, because that's a non-specific. You didn't say this Hattie that we have, as a healing target in front of us today. Then that's only one Hattie that's there, that meets that description. So if you just say Hattie, yes, you'll get a random draw across all the Hatties everywhere. And that's what you'll get. So that's probably why you got what you got, because from what you're telling me, you're very intuitive. You're very good at being open. You're very good at getting information. What you're maybe not as good as you'd like to be is sorting all of that, putting it in order and making it useful. That's a harder part. Well, that's because you are in that calm, intuitive space. That's where you live. You live in that intuitive space. Most of us here try to get into that intuitive space and hold it long enough to do something. You live there all the time. And when you live in that intuitive space, you have a thought. Somebody says, oh, here's the list of the people we're going to heal today. And you say, oh, these are all people that, in your mind now, then only this takes a fraction of a second, but your mind says, oh, those are the people, they all have something wrong with them, and your thought goes, I wonder what, or they all have something wrong. And there they are all over the place, like you say. Just because a stray thought of yours just ran across that, oh, I wonder what they all have, bingo, there they are. So all you have to do is to have the most casual thought cross your mind, and there comes the data. So you need to kind of put that in harness. You need to get it to work for you rather than just have it running around wild all the time. One thing that you can do is be a little more careful what you think, what runs through your mind, what kind of questions go through. And if the stuff just runs through and suddenly you get it, and you go, okay, hey, I'll get to you all later. I don't need to deal with this now. I'll get to it one at a time later. Then you can come by. So if you don't mind getting, a lot of people get overwhelmed with it. They're empaths. They pick up everything, and they're just overwhelmed by stuff. They can't be around crowds of people because they get too much. Well, you can turn that off with your intent. You can turn off everything. So you're just in a vacuum, or you can just let this sort of thing in or that sort of thing in. I only want to hear from, children that have blonde hair and blue eyes and are under the age of 10, and that's all you'll hear from. So you can make conditions on what it is your intent is. In other words, focus your intent more carefully. So when you got to actually doing them one at a time, I would suspect that your problem, your challenge is more to stay focused on what you're doing and not let your mind kind of jump around on extraneous things. And that just takes practice. But you don't have to practice being in the intuitive state and being in the right state of mind. You're just there already. Yeah. You have to practice controlling your thoughts so that you just don't bring stuff in willy-nilly all over the place and not know what to do with all of it. You just need to think one clear thought at a time and hold it precisely just like that until you study it, heal it, do whatever you want to do with it, rather than have this mishmash of stuff flowing around all the time. It's just practice. I'm sure you have gotten used to the way you are with all the stuff that comes in all the time. And you probably have some of your own techniques for shutting down parts of it and opening up parts of it. I mean, you pretty much have to just to get by in life. Otherwise, you're going to be overwhelmed always. So you've come up with your own tools for sorting some of it. And I think that's good. And those tools, I'm sure, work for you reasonably well. But you can take those tools and fine tune them down to where you can do that with the details. Keep your mind focused on one thing. And I don't know if you practice meditation or not, but that may be one thing to do, kind of the classical meditation, not because you need to meditate to get into the intuitive space like the rest of us, but because you need the discipline in being able to have no thoughts, nothing coming through your mind, and being able to keep that mind blank and empty for more than 10 seconds, and then more than 20 seconds, and then more than a minute, and keep building it up to where you can keep it quiet and still for as long as you like. That would be a really good skill for you to learn, and meditation is the way to learn that. And then once you have that kind of control over your thoughts, now you'll find it easy to do very specific things. You want to find a specific thing about a specific person and get that with clarity and not have all this stuff running all over it that you try to pick out the pieces that you want, then you'll be able to do that much better then. So just practice, Kelly. That's, you have the opposite problem everybody else here has. You need to slow it down and get control of it rather than find out how to do it. Yeah, so that's why you got all that stuff, and the reason you got the right diagnosis but the wrong person was because you weren't specific. Again, not being careful with what you think. What you think is very precise. And every time you think a thought, you get results. And if you think 10 thoughts in a second, you're going to get all those results back all in that second. And if your mind is flying around, the mind is fast. That mind can think dozens of thoughts in a second. The mind is really quick, so we can go out and zap, 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 and all this stuff is coming in. And now your problem is to sort it out or to throw it all away as junk. If you sort it all away as junk because you can't sort it out, then see, that's kind of wasting a wonderful talent. You know, it'd be nice to get that all under the direction of your intent so that you can really fine tune it. And then you can do a lot of good for a lot of people, including yourself, when you have that mastered. So yeah.
I will do that. Thank you. And I know that in practice, when I was doing massage for a living, or rehab therapy for a living, when I was with one person, I was able to focus because I'm with that one person, and I wasn't thinking about the person I have 2 appointments from now or somebody I just saw. I was with that one person, but they had me figured out. My regulars had me figured out. They would come and they'd lay down and they wouldn't tell me what they're there for or what they wanted to know, but they were trying to solve their family's issues while they were on my table, because I usually saw something in their space that it's almost like I see stories in people's space. And like I'll say, this is weird, but I'm seeing a bunch of flowers and they're stuck in your bum hole. And the person would laugh and say, well, my husband and I got in a fight, and rather than talk to me about what he was upset about, what I was upset about, he bought me flowers, which pissed me off. And I told him to stick them up his ass, you know? And so it was a metaphor that I saw in their space, and I didn't know what it meant, but it was meaningful to the person. And so they would like come in and work on their family relations, you know, because I could see it in the space, but it does make it ineffective or non-productive sometimes if I can't narrow it down. So I do need to focus on that. You're right.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to practice that. I hadn't thought of doing meditation and then clearing my mind to do it. So that's good. Thank you. I'll get on that.
Good.